Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Andrew and today I'm going to take you through another one of my strengthening and stretching mobility routines for building flexibility and true strength throughout the whole body. This is a full body routine with a shoulder and upper back focus. This is my own routine I designed using a blend of mobility exercises, primal movement, yoga, and dynamic sport-specific training movements. My goal is to give you some ideas for some new exercises you can try or to use as a framework on how you might order or construct your own routine. I hope you enjoy it. Alright, let's go. Starting out with high knees to keep my arms up in front of my chest and shoulders in an athletic position, and crunch my trunk towards the knee that's lifting, just to get a little more abdominal and core work in there. And I do 15 to 20 on each leg. Heel kicks, 15 to 20 on each leg. The next one is a side shuffle. Now I'm going to move into some arm circles and go in both directions, about 10 each way. Switching directions on the left arm, 10 circles forward on the left. Now switching to the right arm, 10 arm circles back. And switching directions on the left, 10 circles forward. Shake the arms out a little bit, roll the shoulders. Okay, now I'm going to go to some walkouts to start strengthening and stretching, especially in the core. Walk back to the starting position, taking a little rest in between, and now I'm going to do a bear walk, staying in that A-frame or downward dog position and walking the arms and legs in a contralateral motion. So this is all strengthening and stretching here, strengthening and stretching using your own body weight. Few little wrist circles in there. A lot of this stuff puts a fair amount of pressure on the wrists. This is a new one I've been doing that I learned in a gymnastics class that I took in the city. Basically just hopping and jumping. I started throwing this in as a part of my warm-up on my leg days particularly. Okay, now I'm going to move into some cobra to downward dog. I usually throw a bunch of these in for most of my routines, usually as part of the warm-up and sometimes also as part of the cool down. And then here I'm going into the lunge with a twist. I usually do about 2 to 4 on each side, or about 4 to 8 total. These aren't considered super advanced. They're not that easy for a lot of people, especially if you're just starting out. And some of these moves will take weeks, months to get really good at. So I throw in a bunch of these primal squats as well. This is another position that's a really good stretch and mobility move. It's also a nice resting pose in between. And again, some cobras and downward dog. These are staple movements. They originated in yoga, but they have just permeated a lot of other types of training, like sport-specific type training, mobility work. You just see these movements all over the place now in all kinds of fitness routines, which usually means that these are really good movements that you want to try to be doing because they've stood the test of time and they've permeated all different types of fitness disciplines. Okay, now I'm going to come down to a classic standing forward bend. I'm also going to start to alternate back and forth between holding some stretches and some more active poses, because now I'm all warmed up, I'm all stretched out, and now I can work into some deeper stretches and do some more physically demanding mobility work. And we'll get to that in a minute, but for now I'm just working on the classic standing forward bend. There's a nice little roll up of the spine. That's another nice thing you can do from a standing forward bend to get a stretch through the whole spine when you come up. We're going to go back into another standing forward bend, this time with the arms behind the back, and get a really nice shoulder stretch. There's a gradual releasing over time as you're holding it. And the breaths, or deep breathing, are the mechanism, the vehicle, or the catalyst for being able to move into the stretch deeper. And easing out of the stretch. Now that I've loosened up the shoulders, time to move into a crab position, moving back and forth, front to back. As you move forward, hips towards the heels, it's going to open the shoulders a lot more. Throwing in some bridges to work the posterior chain, especially the hips and low back. And then some one-arm bridges, where this requires a significant amount of shoulder stability and strength in the shoulder and the sense of stabilization. Under switch. Movement like this can help you work into some more advanced movements like that one-arm bridge. And now just into a primal squat as another transition position. Over time you can just drop right into this position. I'm going to go into Seiza, another staple movement. This is a nice mobility movement for the shoulders. It's based on the aptly scratch test to test the mobility and the flexibility in the shoulder joints. Only we're not going to hold it and do it as a test. I'm just going to flow back and forth. This next stretch is a variation on hero pose. It's a reclined hero pose, except I'm not reclining all the way back. You're opening the hip flexors up into the front of the hip and opening up the shoulders, the chest as well on the front side of the body. Very good for counteracting negative effects of sitting. You can relax your head back, or you can tuck your chin forward towards the chest. In this case, I'm doing a little bit of both. This is the hero pose with eagle arms. This is a really great stretch for the shoulders and upper back and in between the shoulder blades. When you first do this stretch, it can be a little awkward and maybe a little uncomfortable, but once you start to get used to it, like a lot of these other positions, it starts to feel really good. Now switching arms, I just did right under left, now left under right. Okay, now we're going to stretch the legs a little bit with this lunge stretch. This is a yin yoga style dragon stretch. It's going to help open up the hip flexor. So just gradually easing into it over time as I'm holding it. And now sitting back to stretch the hamstrings. This is a common sequence. You go from the lunge, stretch the front of the leg or the hip flexor in the front, and then sit back into this hamstring stretch and stretch the back of the leg. Now switching to right side dragon. Now, as you can see, I'm really starting to relax into the stretch where my knee is moving well past my toe line and my back leg, my left leg, is extended back and my hips are lowering towards the ground. That opens up the knee and the ankle on the front leg, and you're opening up the hip flexor on the back leg. You also get a little bit of the hip and glute on the front leg opening up and stretching as well. Now stretching the back of the hip and the hamstring on the right leg. Just taking a little rest in Seiza just as a transition move and relax a little bit before the last stretch. This is a really great relaxing stretch or posture position that you can spend a fair amount of time in. It helps open up the knees and stretch the quads and even the ankles as well. Okay, now moving on to the deeper twisted dragon. The twisted dragon is a nice deep stretch. It's going to stretch the hip flexor on the back leg, and it's also going to stretch the hip and glute on the front leg. And the twisting action starts to get your spine involved a little bit, so you're stretching out your back as well. Okay, and now the left side twisted dragon. Now to finish up, just spending a little bit of time in the Primal Squat. That's going to do it for today's exercise routine. Thanks for joining me today. If you like this routine, please hit that like button below. Share this video with your training partner or team. If you'd like to see more full body strength and mobility routines like this in the future, please subscribe and I'll see you in the next video.